Hi everyone, welcome back to the Wonder of Anime podcast. I'm your host, Lisa. I am a multimedia anime content creator, and my work spans across my blog, my YouTube channel, and of course this podcast. This week, I am so excited to have with us David Ross, aka Vibe Dealin' David. He is a content creator, cosplayer, and streamer from Louisville, Kentucky. On his social media platforms, he reviews and recommends anime and manga, as well as gives interesting facts behind their creation and those involved. Welcome to the show, David. How did I do with Louisville, Kentucky?
You did all right. You did all right. You didn't say Louisville. That's what matters.
You know what? I heard that y'all don't like that.
Can't stand it. That's the one thing.
No, I'm not going to get run off the internet by your fans. So I'm so excited to have you on here to talk about today one of your favorite anime, which is also one of my favorite anime, which is Fullmetal Alchemist, specifically Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. But we're going to be getting into Fullmetal Alchemist as a whole. But I did, before we get into that, want us to learn a little bit more about you and your journey as a content creator. So if you could tell us how you kind of started creating content and what exactly do you do? Because you do a couple different things.
So honestly, I got into creating content just because I have a whole bunch of friends that are cosplayers. They make all kind of content. And I'm like, man, not necessarily I want to get in this too, but like I have a lot of stuff I talk about. I talk a lot. I have a lot of stuff I would like to talk about. So I just started talking about my favorite things, anime and manga. I started off mostly just doing like, oh, this anime surprised me. Like anime I didn't expect to be as good as they are. Anime similar to this, stuff like that, which I still do now. But now I'm trying to get into more of themed things. Like for this month, I did Black History Month. So right now I'm highlighting some creators inside the anime space and the contributions to it. But I also did romance anime recommendations. Next month, I'm going to be trying to do some Women's History Month things. So, you know, trying to stay in the theme of, like, things going on around you, but also keeping the anime as well. One of my favorite things I do is my Manga Mondays. I recommend a different manga every week. Try to do the cream of the crop. I read a ton of manga. I know it's good, and I know it's not too good. But that's probably my favorite. And then also, like I said, recommending things similar to other shows. Because there's nothing like finishing a show and be like, well, what can I watch next? And there's nothing with a similar vibe, story, nothing that you can find.
I love that. And I love that your content, something that I was like, okay, because I'm very selective. People who listen to this know that I ain't just going to have anybody on. But I love that your content is always like fun and positive. And it's like, you know, like you be like your name is like Vibe Dylan, but it's true. Like you're like a vibe. Like you're so fun in your videos and exciting. And I love that because I feel like people be like, thinking that it's not cool to be passionate about stuff, and I'm like, actually that's very cool. Like people who are so confident in like sharing what they love, like that's cool to me. I think it's cool.
Most definitely. Some people don't for some reason a lot of people don't like sharing as much positivity. One of my main things is trying to be as positive as possible, still critiquing things, but it doesn't have to always be so negative. But I get comments on my videos all the time saying, why does he smile so much? Because I'm happy. And why would I give you sadness or give you negativity? I'm Vibe Dealin' David. I'm going to deal you the best vibe that I can. You know what I mean?
That's so weird. Like, that's such a weird thing to tell someone. Like, oh, you be smiling. Bro. You too damn happy. Like,
too damn happy. Well, take it off. Like, what are we on, man?
No, I've had this conversation, it feels like every last couple episodes, but it's just, I think now people just, you know, the negative stuff is what gets people like a reaction and going people viral and stuff. And it's just like, enough, like, stop it. Like, it's just so, I think too, it's like, there's a level of like critique, like valid critiques, and then there's a level where you're just shitting on stuff. And I'm like, okay, like now, you know, at the end of the day, like we're not in Japan, but the creators, oftentimes they see this stuff. Like I review manga and I've had the mangakas like hop in like right back and be like, I love this. Thank you for reviewing this. So they see they might not, you know, interact. But just imagine, like, you wrote something and somebody's like, this is mid. This is the worst trash I ever read. Like, you'd be like...
I'm like, what the hell?
What's that? 50 Cent meme? He's like, go fuck me. Like,
oh, what'd you say fuck me for? Like, no, I felt for sure.
It'd be out here. But I also wanted to touch upon your streaming, because I feel like streaming is like a form of content creation, but I kind of view them very separately, because it's like content creation, like, you know, you're doing stuff before, after, during, and after creating content. Streaming is definitely planned, but it's also like off the cuff. You're live, you're doing different things that you might not necessarily do in recorded content. So if you could tell us about your streaming, because I know you do a couple different things too.
Yeah, so I do a few different kind of streaming. I've never been much of a gamer. I was a gamer as like a kid, and then my dad took our Dreamcast away, and it was just gone until we got a Wii in like 2013. So I've never been much of a gamer. So a lot of times I'm trying to play games that I never was able to play as a kid, or the few that I was able to play, and I'm just re-experiencing them. Like I played Sonic Adventure the other day. I've gotten the Tomb Raider the other day. But then I also do I'll do different like tournaments, quizzes, and like tier lists for anime stuff on Tuesdays. Mondays, sometimes we'll watch some anime together. So I try to do a few different things. Because yes, I do want to game, and that's a big thing with streaming, but I still try to keep my stuff anime focused. I've lost a little bit of the focus recently because I've really been getting into gaming. But at the end of the day, I'm an anime content creator, and even my streams, you can still see some of the same vibes.
I mean, I think it's cool too to have other interests as well. Cause like, yes, we like anime. Cause I feel like though there are two people that you be like, you need to touch grass. Like you doing too much, and it's the people that don't have other hobbies. Like,
oh yeah, for sure,
you need to touch grass. But I love that. When I approached you, you immediately had ideas. You were torn in between some, but we narrowed it down. And you're talking about Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. So I always like to, before having you start, my history with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, and that is that I love Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. It is my top anime of all time, and we'll get a little bit more into that as the conversation goes on. So you are the expert, but I'm up here too. Like, you know, because there's some people come on the show and there's anime that I've never saw. But we on par. But I'm not like, well, actually, because I'm actually started the manga. Well, actually, I started the manga because I've had it for so long, like completed. I've just haven't wanted to read it yet. I'm very, and we'll get into this, I'm very into feeling like there's things call you when you need to watch them, so or read them. So I actually read the first volume, I think like 2 weeks ago, and I have it by my bedstand because I have like a chapter left. But that's my history with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. So if you could tell us, what is Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood?
Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is the undisputed GOAT of anime. All right, pound for pound, the best anime that has ever come out. And before anyone says anything, I have seen 420 anime. All the ones you put above it, I promise you I've seen it. I love them. Fullmetal Alchemist is just my number one. It is absolutely amazing. The mangaka Hiromu Arakawa. I mess it up every video. Love her. She wrote the manga in 2001. I think it ran all the way up to 2010 or 2011. Then it got 2 anime adaptations, both by Studio Bones, one 2003, one in 2009, which we know the differences between the two, but I know I'm sure we'll get into it. But Fullmetal Alchemist tells the story of Edward Elric and Alphonse Elric. And to try not to deep dive too much, because you know us, we can talk about it all day. Something happened. They broke the laws of alchemy. Edward lost an arm and a leg. Alphonse lost his body, so he's trapped in a suit of armor. Thankfully that he's not dead. He's in a suit of armor. And their whole goal is to get the Philosopher's Stone so they can get their bodies back.
Man, peak. Like, even just that premise, it's just, you just can't, defeat it.
Beat it, bro.
So how did you, because we talked about this a little bit offline, that you also, and I say recently, like meaning like the last 5 or 6 years, because a lot of people have watched it from when it was originally airing, the first one, and then the remake. So how did you get into Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood?
So it's actually kind of funny, because you would think with my huge manga collection and the amount of anime I've seen, because I've seen more anime, not to toot my own horn, but more anime than a lot of anime watchers have. I only got into anime in like 2018. I have only watched anime for like 6 years. Fullmetal Alchemist was probably if I checked my notes, I could tell you exactly, but probably my 6th anime altogether. And I know a lot of people will say like, oh, that's your favorite. People make the argument all the time for whatever anime someone says their favorite. That's your favorite because you saw it early. I saw Dragon Ball first. I watched My Hero Academia before it. I saw Naruto first. Fullmetal Alchemist spoke to me on a different level. It was on Netflix, and I was a person late into getting into anime. I wasn't pandemic late, but I was late. So I'm Googling what's the best anime to watch. You know what I mean? I already watched Naruto. I already saw Dragon Ball. What should I watch next? Everyone said Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. I started it. Absolutely peak. Absolutely amazing. I've seen it like 3 times now. I recently started rewatching it. Then I have the Blu-ray as well. I got merch for it, and I'm hoping to get a tattoo soon. Peak.
Yes. I too got into Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood late. Now I have been into anime my whole life, like 3-4 years old watching Sailor Moon. And I have also seen a lot of anime, and I feel like I'm not even gonna try to go through my list. But for me, I had known like about it maybe I think 2014 or 15. I was like, oh, I want to watch it, and I tried I think the original, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. I didn't try again. And then in 2019, I just kind of was like, I don't know. I was going through a lot of stuff at work, and I was like, oh, I just need something to watch. And then I was like, oh, let me do Brotherhood. Because I think my friend had told me, like, she was like, you know, you were trying to watch the old one. Watch the new one, the Brotherhood one. And I watched it in 2019, and I was like, I feel like for me, like, I do think it's like peak, and it's like obviously one of the best anime of all time, but like for me being my favorite, like, has nothing to do with that. Like, it could be number 0, like number 20,000,000 on the top list, but to me, the emotional impact that it had on me makes it my number 1 anime. But it's just, I also think too, to your point, like, I don't like, because I will say, like, and I try not to be this person as somebody who makes anime content. There are definitely anime bandwagoners in the sense of, like, people, and that's with anything. Like, the minute something is hot, everyone is a fan and stuff. And we had a lot of people like that in the pandemic. But I also think, like, you can just discover something one day and it just alters your brain chemistry. Like, 2018 was your time to discover anime and become a changed man. So I love that, and I love that story too, because I think it's also different coming into anime as an adult versus people who grew up with it, because we've had like different iterations of anime.
Yeah.
So you're watching it, you think this is this is your 6th anime. When did you realize, like, this anime, no matter what came before it, no matter what comes after it, was gonna be your favorite?
Man, honestly, I couldn't even tell you when. It was just one of those things where it's kind of like, not to bring up another anime, but it's kind of the same way I felt with One Piece and Hunter x Hunter. You get to a certain point in the story and you're just like, wow. You know what I mean? I just reached a certain part in the story. I think it was like in the later half, it started getting darker. Edward had fell and through this building thing, and this like big old thing went through his side, and I was like, oh my god. And I realized how much I cared about him as a character. You know what I mean? And then you see everybody else and you're like, yo, like, the female cast in Fullmetal Alchemist is so much better. Like I said, I had only seen so many anime beforehand. We actually got into it at the same year. I got into Fullmetal Alchemist on 2019 as well. But I'd only seen so many before it, and they were some of the older ones. You just realize how much better the female cast is. They're done so well. None of them are written like in a cliche way. But even then, the male cast, the children in the cast, the stories in it, it has a certain level of depth without plunging all the way into it as well. It never loses its hope completely. You know what I mean? It's just an amazing story, amazing characters. I would say probably just halfway through the story, I just realized that there's probably nothing else I can see that's going to top this in the amount of time that I've watched this.
Yeah, it's hard to describe, like, watching it for the first time, because I haven't finished a full rewatch, but I like have started rewatching it, and I also have a certain scene that I revisit every month. I'm like, oh, it's time to watch that one scene again. But I feel like when you're watching it, for me, it got to this point where you're like, oh, like, you keep thinking that you know the story, and like you keep thinking that you got it figured out. And then, like, every episode is like, psych, you don't got nothing figured out.
Yeah.
You can't nail this down. And I think it's very hard for a show to do that for as long as it does. I think because it's very to, like, almost so you're at the end where you're like, so this is how it's going to happen. Because I feel like some shows you kind of get, like, obviously My Hero, I love My Hero is also one, like, probably my top 10. I love it so much.
Love it.
But
love
like
it.
you know that Deku's gonna become the best hero of all time. Like,
For sure.
that's in the thing. And like Full Metal Alchemist, I'm just kind of like, I really don't know. Like, I don't know how this could end. Like, there's so many things. Like, the stakes just have so much. So I like that. That you're like watching it and you're just like, man, this is not. And I want to take it outside of anime too. Like, regular TVs or movies, like, I just don't think anything is touching this story. Like,
yeah, nah, the story is peak. My top 3 anime are like my top 3 medias in general.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's nothing touching them. They just tell such an intricate story.
Yeah, and I feel like that kind of goes into the next question, but you know, even though we discovered Full Metal Alchemist late, like, it's been out since 2001 if you're counting the manga, and it's still a topic of conversation. You can't talk about great, even if it's not somebody's number one, you can't talk about greats without mentioning it. And why do you think that it is as timeless as it is?
So I will say I've had this conversation a few times, especially with one of my homeboys, Kai. We say all the time, I joked in the beginning, you know, pound for pound, this is the GOAT. But in all honesty, pound for pound is the best because to me, I don't think there's an anime that's 64 episodes long that tells a story as well as it does. Like, yes, I can say, oh, Bleach does this better. Yes, oh, One Piece does world building better. It's 1,000 episodes. It's going to. Yes, Hunter x Hunter does this better. What Fullmetal Alchemist does in 64 episodes, I have never seen in another anime. You know what I mean? It never overstays its welcome. It has an amazing ending. 99% of the characters are written just like beautifully. You know what I mean? So I think it just speaks to the greatness of it. It's just how great the story is, that it is as timeless as it is. There's just, not to say there's nothing touching it, but like I said, quality wise, pound for pound, it has the best story in that length.
I love that you pointed out like the 64 episodes thing too, because I feel like there's always this common misconception with media, like the longer it is, the better it is. Mm-hmm. Or like now with prestige television, it's like the shorter it is, the more prestige. And it's like, knowing how long to stay is so good. There's so many shows that like ran too long, and if they would have ended like a season or two earlier, they would have left off being the greatest. And I think Full Metal Alchemist, like you said, wraps up the story. Like, that's it. Like, we don't need more. Like, everything that was started was finished, and it's like, I'm good. I don't need anything else. Like, I don't even find out what happened afterwards.
There's nothing else you need in that story. It even gives you that little time skip to show you, like, they're good. They're happy. They're good.
They're good.
Like, the girls are good, man.
Everybody's like doing well. So when you think about Full Metal Alchemist, obviously, you know, we think it's amazing. But what is something that, as someone who loves it, do you find when people are talking about this anime, or people that maybe haven't watched it, are getting wrong with the show?
So one thing, okay, can I bring up another show? Because more in comparison to something else. So one thing that I feel like people get wrong, and it's no shame against anybody, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is peak anime. But one thing that a lot of people get wrong is that they think Fullmetal Alchemist, the original, is just terrible. And to be honest, I was okay with accepting that until I watched it. It, like you said, it was a little bit harder to get into in the beginning, but Fullmetal Alchemist, the original, actually does quite a few things better than Brotherhood does. I don't know if you want me to get into that, but it does a few things better.
You can bring up some. Let us know.
So,
what
like,
do you
for
think
example,
is better?
for example, love Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but as you watch the first few episodes, you'll notice how it kind of speed runs through things. It just kind of drops you in the world, and they're like, okay, well, you'll find out what is happening later. You know what I mean? Or it'll bring up things that happen. Like, for example, they brought up how the Elric brothers solved this case where there was this like gold smuggling, like this guy was stealing gold from this country, and they stopped it. I literally watched the episode. I think it was episode like 4 or something like that. They brought it up. Never tells you anything about it. It just tells you it happened, and then they bring up Yoki later, who actually was the perpetrator of it. Fullmetal Alchemist, the original, goes through the entire story so you get it. So Brotherhood kind of assumes you've seen the first story, but it's still safe to watch even if you haven't seen it. Or, for example, how they do Lust in the original anime. Lust in Brotherhood, you know, I'm not going to spoil anybody. You know, just in case anybody hasn't seen it, even though you should if you haven't. Lust has a certain ending in the show. Whatever. In the original, Lust is around for like the entirety of the show. And her story and the story of the homunculi is just dived into way more than in Brotherhood. Another thing, like to caveat off of the speedrunning thing, what happens with Maze Hughes, right? And what happens with Nina Tucker. Those two things in the anime. In Brotherhood, I'm not going to say I didn't care for it. It kind of just happened. You know what I mean? We've only known Maze Hughes for like 10 episodes, and you've only got him this much. Because outside of loving his daughter, we don't know too much about him. You know what I mean? He loves his daughter. Word Mustang's his homeboy. In the original, we had him around for like 25 episodes. We see him so much more. You get more connection with him. Same thing with Nina Tucker. We had her in the original. We saw her for like 2 or 3 episodes in total, instead of everything from introduction to what happened to her with Shao Tucker happens in like 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So I just think it lengthens some of the stories out in the beginning a bit better than Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood does. So that's probably my one thing, is that it just sped run through the beginning a bit. And that's okay to have a little fall, because it's still peak story regardless.
That is like a common thing that I hear, like people who've seen both, because I think too it's unfair to like really put them against each other, because I also think what a lot of people don't like recognize when they are, and this is me and you because we like super fans, but like people that are anime fans, is like I think it's also because I'm very sensitive. Like, there's always a reason for something, right? Like, you're saying like, oh, the original did this, and it, you know, they forgot this and this, and it's like, well, it was coming out at the same time as the manga, like, and that is very common, you know, especially I feel like back then. Now it's more common to follow the story, and even if they gotta wait till like more chapters pile up, but that's like how anime was back in the day. So I feel like it's unfair to be like, well, they did this differently. Yes, it was happening at the same time. Like they had to make it up. Like, and
exactly.
And I think, you know, people who don't know anime or the anime industry, like, that's fine, they don't know that, but I think like a lot of people who like consider themselves like huge anime fans, and it's like, that to me is not a valid critique, because that's not something that the story could control. Like, how can they change the ending? They didn't know. Like, they're going off the decision, and you know, if the manga's involved or whatever, for what direction they want it to go.
No, I get you. And like, to me, I feel like I'm not gonna say it's invalid to critique the ending, but it's like, you have to take it with a grain of salt. You can't be mad and be like, oh, the first one trash. Well, no, they had to come up with a story off the cuff and transfer the story that clearly has foreshadowing for what's going to happen later, has this lengthy story, and they have to end it in like the next 25 episodes, because we don't know when the anime is going to catch up to the manga. We don't know when the manga is going to like catch up all the way. You can't, how would you deal with it if you had to finish someone else's story? You know what I mean? So like you said, it's kind of hard to critique that, because it had to happen. Right.
And it's like, I think like you said, like the critique is valid, but it's like the comparison. Like, you can say like, this ending, I didn't like this ending because I thought they could have done this better. But to be like, oh, I didn't like this ending because that's not what happened in the manga. The manga wasn't done yet. Like,
no, exactly. It's like, bro, of course that didn't happen. It didn't even happen yet. Like,
and there's sometimes too, like, and this is something that I want to dive a little bit more into, is in like my personal research, because I am a huge like Clamp fan. Like, that's my bread and butter. And it's so funny because I always talk about Clamp, and like, I don't record this on my Clamp shelf, and I should, because that's where like it's on the other side. But there is like, one of their most notable series is X, and X has a movie, a manga, and an anime. And the movie has a different ending. The anime has a different ending. And the manga went on hiatus and is never come back. And there's no ending. Like, there's like, it's rumored that there was like 4 more chapters left. But the story is very dark, and it talks like earthquakes and stuff. And at the time, Japan was experiencing they were like, girl, shut this down. It is too close to the natural disasters that we're having. So I say that to say that there's somebody just commented this on my X video, where they're saying like, there's a rumor, or discussion in the fandom that the anime ending was actually the direction that they wanted the show to end. So I do want to know, like, and it might be different case to case basis, like what the involvement is for ending a show where the manga is still ongoing, like how involved the creators are in that. Because sometimes I know that they are involved, and sometimes it's like, here's the name, here's the rights or whatever. Y'all do what you want with the story. And I think it's more common now, too, for the creators to be as involved. But sometimes, I guess, based on their contracts, they don't really have a lot of involvement or, like, a say in what they want the ending to be.
Yeah, no, I've definitely seen some of them have, like especially when it comes to shows that have a lot of filler. Some of them will have the creator help with the filler. Some won't. That's why some fillers complete terrible and some isn't. Like with Type Kubo with Bleach, there's some really bad filler in there, but then there's some good filler, and he's like, oh, I actually helped write this. Like, yeah, I'm writing the story, but I still want to put something here that still gives a similar vibe and that our fans will still like. And I really wish I'm not going to say I wish the contracts were different, but I do wish that mangakas had more of an opportunity to be involved. But I know a lot of studios are like, yo, hey, you wrote the story. That's about as involved as you need to be, gang. That's it.
And we got it from here.
Oh my God, I have a whole conversation I've had about that because I don't. Whatever. That's a whole different conversation because I'm not gonna bring up Tokyo Ghoul and Promised Neverland, but it's like I wish they had more involvement. Jesus Christ, involvement in those stories because, like, yeah, at the end of the day, it is my story, but I just feel like they don't respect the mangaka as much as that. They're like, well, look, you made this. I'm trying to make some money off of it. Just let me get this. You go write something else. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And that actually, this is unfortunate, but this recently just happened. A mangaka committed suicide, and a lot of it is related to an adaptation of a manga that she had. And I wish I remember it, but it was adapted into a live action. It's not an anime adaptation; it's a live action adaptation. And there was like a lot of back and forth with herself and the studio. And this is like she's like a 20, 30-year career mangaka, like a veteran in the industry. And they're alluding to the fact, because it was like this huge falling out. Like fans are not happy with the direction of the I think of the live action. And she had been going back and forth with the studio, and the studio was like, yeah, she has control. She like really didn't. They weren't honoring her wishes, and she committed suicide. Wow. And it's like, yeah, it's like last month, like this just happened. And I think it's wow. And I bring it up because I think it's important, to highlight that, because a lot of times, like, I feel like people forget anime and manga is like ultimately a business. Like at the end of the day, like we love it. It's entertainment. But it is a business, and I feel like it's important to understand, like, a lot of these changes or whatever's happening in the anime or live action, like they don't have control over that, because at the end of the day, the studio is something that has more power. I just wanted to make sure I said her name. Her name is Hanako Ashihara, and she was her series Sexy Tanaka-san. That was the one that was being like a live action. I mean, it's been huge on like manga Twitter, like, because this, like I said, this just happened a couple weeks ago. She was 50, and she like has a long history of manga. Like very shoujo, josei manga. So yeah, so that, and like I said, I just, it's like the character has really long hair. She kind of looks like Cher. But yeah,
I feel like I've heard of it before.
You might have, because like the manga's like popular. But yeah, so that's what happened, and I think I wanted to bring that up where we're talking about like the studios and stuff. A lot of times it's like out of their control. They don't have they don't have the decision making power. So it is kind of annoying when fans are like, this is mid, and it's like, well, you kind of don't know the politics behind what is happening.
Exactly. Like, it's like I've heard a lot of things about like Type Kubo and how he went with Bleach, and they're like, oh, why did you end it like this? It's like, well, because they pressured him. Let's do this in this story. Can we do this in this amount of time? Now he's like, well, hold on, bro, I'm not done with the story yet. And they're like, no, you need to finish it because of this. And it's like,
figure it out.
Yeah, and it's like, man, like they don't respect. Like I made a tweet earlier today. I was happy because it was a mangaka, he or she, I don't remember, I didn't read the name, but they wrote this manga, Ruri Dragon, and it had like 5 chapters come out, and it went on hiatus. It's been like 3 years almost. And they just was like, oh, it's coming off hiatus, and we're going to be able to, they're like, it's going to be serialized for weekly for 5 weeks, and then it's going to go bi-weekly for after that. And I was just so happy that this mangaka had a lot of health issues stemming from working so hard. I was so happy that this mangaka was able to work with Shonen Jump and they was able to adjust their schedule to better accommodate them. And I wish they did that for more mangaka, because it's, at the end of the day, yes, it's a business and you're in it to make money, but I'm making the product. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's my story. And at the end of the day, it's, yeah, you could find other ones, but if it was as easy to find a hit as you make it sound it is, there you'd have more sales, you'd have more stories outside of the big whatever's big right now that we're selling more. You need to respect the mangaka more, because at the end of the day, it's coming from me regardless. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Yes, it's their story. Like, yeah, I do hope for better treatment, and I wish, I specifically wish more anime content creators would learn about this and talk about this, because I feel like that's how change happens. Like, people speaking out, like, even though we're overseas or whatever, like, you know, things like that make a difference. And I think it is important to highlight that. But that this kind of lead us then into the next question that I had for you. When it comes in terms of like Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the fandom, which I feel like it's also hard to narrow down a fandom because everyone's a fan. But you know, there might be dedicated fandoms. What is an unpopular opinion that you have about the anime that other fans wouldn't agree with you on?
Ooh, unpopular opinion. Honestly, I have a hard time coming up with one for that, because like I said, like, it's peak. But I mean, I'd probably say, kind of like what I said earlier, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood is not a perfect anime. Simple as that. I still give it a 10 out of 10. And yes, that technically means perfect, but it could have done some things better. If it slowed down in the beginning and gave us a little more like attachment to some of those other characters, I feel like it could have been better off for that. But honestly, I mean, I'm pretty much along the lines of the whole fandom. Like, it's just peak, and that's all I think of it at the moment.
When I think of mine, this gonna sound real messed up.
Okay, I'm listening.
I understand. I'm a very, very emotional person.
I know what you're about to say. Go ahead.
I feel like what happens is, was it Mia Tucker? The
Nina
girl,
Tucker.
Nina, that was sad. Like, I'm not gonna say it's not sad, but I feel like, I don't know, I wasn't as moved with the events that happened. Like, I feel like it's sad, and I'm like, well, you know what? It's also more fucked up than I feel like then it's sad. Like, it's because it's like, that's messed up as hell. And then she got put out of her misery. But I don't know. Like, I feel like that wasn't as sad as like it could have been. Maybe I saw it coming, because I was like, immediately I knew, like, when I first was watching it, I knew exactly what was gonna happen. He was like he was acting so shady. I was like, I know this, and I don't know. Like, I just feel like there's so much sadness, and I cried so much, but that, I was kind of like, oh, that's sad. Okay, like, whatever.
No, I feel you. And like I said, it kind of goes back, because I do feel the same way, but I always forget that that's an opinion. You know what I mean? But it's like I said, you don't have as much attachment. Everything that happened with her, we were introduced to her, and she was, you know, that happened within like the same episode or episode and a half. So it's like, I don't even really know this girl. It's just because she's a child, I'm supposed to be sad. What he did is, in fact, messed up. And that is terrible parenting. But it's not like I was heartbroken over her. You know what I mean? If that happened in real life or in an anime and I've known her for 6 episodes, I'd be fucking mortified. You know what I mean? Like, have you seen Made in Abyss at all?
No.
I'm not gonna spoil anything for you. But there is a character who is a father figure. And there's a little girl. What he did to her is what I thought I was going to feel when that happened with Nina Tucker. So much of a worse parent, but we also knew who this person was, and we've been around her for at least a couple of, like sitting living hours. You know what I mean? Like, a whole movie. So, I feel you. It wasn't as sad as I thought it was going to be going in, and then I saw everyone saying they was heartbroken, and I'm like, we only knew them for, like, half an hour, dog.
Like, there could be more there. Is that what you thought I was gonna say, or did you think I was?
That's exactly what. As soon as you said I'm emotional, I said either she's gonna say she didn't care about that, like, not to say that didn't care, wasn't hurt about that, or what wasn't hurt is about Maze Hughes. It's one of the two.
It's just, yeah. I mean, I did care about Maze Hughes because I love a good dad. Like, and I just feel like it was. so like I think with Maze, for me, what hurts the most is like how hurt like everyone else.
That's
was.
exactly what I was just thinking.
And it's just like, man, like you just see how loved he was. And it's like, yes, his wife and his daughter, but like the impact of everyone just caring about him so much. And now like, and he knew like the part that just, like it makes me choke up is like he had it figured out. Like he knew what it was. He knew it was going to happen. And then like, they just don't know that he knew, and he because he knew and he was trying to like get the word out, he died. So I was just like, no, no, Maze. Yeah, that's what gets me. It was like, I don't, but I feel like too, like I don't know what other unpopular opinions people have. I also don't listen to people's. This question's kind of funny because I don't listen to other people's unpopular opinions. So I'm like, I don't know.
Especially not about Fullmetal Alchemist.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't know what else. I mean, I think it's hard because it's like, what I also think is special about Fullmetal Alchemist is that it's not really a show that like lets you form like your own theories in a way. Mm-hmm. Like I guess like, you know, you question like the morality aspect and the deadly sins and stuff, but like you kind of like the story, like it's messed up. Like there's no other thing where I feel like something like, and I haven't finished Attack on Titan, so no spoilers, but like with Attack on Titan, like there's just, especially right up until, because I literally have like 5 episodes to go. I just can't bring myself to finish it.
Please finish it.
I know, it's just, oh my god, it's my emotions. I'm too emotional, and that's also like my like second. Let me tell you, I have the manga for everything, and I can't get there. But it's like with Attack on Titan, like you can form a lot of like, Aaron's a genocidal maniac. No, he's not. He's this, and I feel like there's nothing to argue with Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Like, you're gonna be like, nah, Ed shouldn't be trying to save his brother's body. Like,
right. So you gonna tell this man not to do it? Like,
he not gonna get his limbs back. Like, I feel like there's not a lot to argue with it. Like, it's not one of those stories where there's a lot of gray area. Like, there's not. At least I don't think so. Like, this man messed up. The government is so corruption.
Yo, no, I feel you. There's not a lot of gray area. It's like there's almost like no villain, because most stories you can root for the villain at some point in time, and it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, not necessarily okay, but like you said with Aaron, it's like, are you on his side or not? And you can make arguments for both sides. There is no reason for you to root for father or against Edward and them. Why are you rooting against this young man trying to save his brother? Like, what's wrong with you, bro? Or even maybe the closest thing you can root to against is Roy. Maybe only because some people don't like his motivations and like, oh, they think he used Edward. But in all honesty, I mean, he's in the military, but he also helped him get along his way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, he had his own motivations, but it's not like he's evil. You know what I mean?
And the show like shows you the side for everything, because they show you like the positive of the military, but the negative of the military, and like their bad actions and the blood on their hands. So it's like they're not painting anybody in a light where you're like, I could see, like, you can't see this. Like, I can't root for father. There's no time where I'm like, maybe he has a point. Maybe
he's on to something. The moment I seen the homunculus in the jar, I said, you're evil, bro. There's no way in hell that you're not. Like,
that was so interesting. I was like, oh my god. Like, it, and that's the thing too with Fullmetal, like, it just, you're mind blown. Like, that's so late in the game and you're still mind blown. Like, I can't believe this. I just, again, peak. We're just gonna say that this whole time.
it's peak, man. I was literally just thinking about how, like, just talking about it, like how different Edward is from other MCs. He's so different, and that I think that really plays into the peakness too, because I was rewatching it and I'm like, this little man is cocky as hell, and he only cares about what he cares about. He's not trying to be, I'm gonna be the greatest alchemist of all time. Not to shit on any other anime. Not talking about nobody and their Hokages and their Pirate Kings. I love One Piece, I love Naruto, but he's not trying to be the best alchemist of all time. He's not even trying to be first, second, third. He don't even care. He only needs to be a better alchemist to get to his end goal. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And at times, he'll do things that people may think is questionable. You know what I mean? That's okay. And that's another reason why I love it, because it's just so different from everything else. Like, Alphonse is more the generic MC than Edward is. No offense to Alphonse, but he's a happy-go-lucky, and he follows his brother. But even then, he's not generic at all either. Because seeing that man making a list of foods he wanted to eat when he got his body back I'm like, oh my God. Like, what do you mean you want to try this custard pie because you don't have taste buds and you haven't had them for 5 years? Like, I'm like, oh my God, bro.
The fact that he can't sleep, like, that's so, oh my God. I saw this, I'm going to have to send it to you. I don't know if you've seen it. Somebody did, like, a comic, like a fan art comic of, like, Al waking up in the hospital and everybody visiting him, and he like is finally like I think there's a part where he said he was like afraid to fall asleep because he hadn't done it so long. I was like, oh my God, like I was crying, I was bawling my eyes out. I was like, this is like too comic like thing, like why is it? but I agree, I love, and that's another thing, like you just like feel for them like so much, like because it's like really like, and for me, and this is spoilers, I'll you know what to do if you haven't seen it. But like, I think the part about it, and this kind of gets into the next question, which is what is a legacy of Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood in your opinion? But for me, I think it's like just the fact too of like how much they're dealing with, like the fact that they for the longest time thought that they brought their mom back, and what they like that part that they thought that was their mom. And then, like, also the teacher was thinking that, too, with her deceased, like, children. And I was just, like, stab in the heart. And it's, like, for me, it's just, like, a show that just deals with that in a way where it's, like, it's not, like, every flashback. They're like, damn, I tried to bring back my dead mom, and it worked out. But then it, like, doesn't let you forget it. And you're just kind of, like, man, like, yes, they're trying to get their bodies back, but they're also dealing with the fact that they feel like this is their fault. Like, they feel personally responsible for what happened. So for me, that's kind of what I feel like the legacy is, like, all the emotions. But I'm curious what you feel like the legacy of the show has been.
Honestly, I probably can't even button it down. It's just, it shows that you're able to write a story that goes against the grain, against so much other things, and still tell a great story. It doesn't try to, it still has certain shonen tropes. It's a shonen manga. Of course it will. But it doesn't try to be like anything else. And it doesn't end up like anything else. You know what I mean? It's okay to write a great female cast and not try to write all the women characters as like, ditzy, or have certain character aspects that they give to everyone. You know what I mean? It's okay to write strong female characters. The mangaka's a female. Love that. It's okay to, in anime, it's okay to try again. You didn't have to just end off on the original Fullmetal Alchemist and call it a day. They did Brotherhood because they knew the story was that good. That's okay. It's okay to go against the grain. I feel like that's the legacy. It is okay to be different. You will not always, may not always succeed in being different. That's part of trying. Regardless of what you try, even if you try to be the same as everyone else, you're not gonna succeed 100% of the time. That's how life works. It's okay to be different.
I agree. I think I just, in having this conversation, like, you mentioned the female characters, but I also think the male characters, like, there's a difference, like, and this is another thing that I love about your content, that you be, like, pro women. Like, I'm like, yes, this is not a trash man. But I saw that you're married, so I feel like that also plays a part. Like, I'm biased because I feel like men, because I'm also married, but I feel like men that have wives that are happy, they know what they're doing. But with that, like, the way that the men are written, like, even going back to, like, as young as, like, Ed and Al are, and, like, Roy, and, like, even the evil men, like, they're just written in such a dynamic way where, and it's been so long since I watched it, so I'm not going to remember everybody's name, but the prince and his ongoing, like, battle.
Ling?
Yeah, and I forget what the sin was that he had. Greed, yeah.
You talking about the one that they morphed together?
Yes.
Yeah,
and it
Greed.
was like, and that to me, like, writing such a situation where you're like, this man don't want to get his body back. Like, he
said,
like,
"No, I'm good right here, dog."
He like, I like you and me working together, kind of to like, and that to me was just so different from having like, you don't see that where it's like, get out of my body, leave me alone, and they're like, actually, it's like that moral, that moral gray area, because he's like, yes, Jing is like, you know, oh yeah, we're gonna do this, but he had his motivations. Like he wanted to be the emperor back in his country. So it's like that. Like I feel like that kind of dynamic view. And not to say like men can't write that, but I feel like it's different when a woman writes it. And I feel like men written by women are always just to like another level, because it's just so like women see men in a way that men don't see men. That
for sure.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
No, for sure. I get you. And like you said, the men are written extremely well. I don't want no one think I was saying that they weren't. But they are definitely written well. And like you said, women do see men in a different light. And like Roy, for example, is an extremely flawed character. And that's okay. I wish people wrote more flaws into their characters, because humans are flawed people. Edward and Al are flawed people. They immediately broke the laws of alchemy as soon as they could. But like with Mustang, seeing how he was trying this revenge that fueled him throughout the entire series after what happened, and Riza kind of bringing him back down. We all go through these things, and that's okay. But it also showed him having someone in his corner, you know what I mean, that had his back. And I love that. And speaking of Riza, my number one anime waifu, love her to death. I have 2 Riza pops up there right now. I love, again, to go back to the women cast, man, the big thing about, you know, this manga came out 2001. Not to say there's not a lot of strong women written into anime, but there's less than there are, you know, not necessarily weaker, but, you know, the trope of like, oh, they're written as the healer, oh, they're written as a support character. Riza is literally this man's bodyguard. Like, I absolutely love that. She holds the gloves that helps. She holds his power, because if rain happens and gets on his glove, he got to go to her to go get him. I absolutely love that. But like you said, the men are written extremely well. Every character in is written extremely well. Even like Envy at the end, I was like, damn, maybe I do kind of feel bad for you getting lit up like that. You know what I mean? Or like even seeing like the only one I didn't care about was like maybe like Sloth, because he was just a big dude tunneling through the bottom of the world, and like fucking Gluttony, because you just eat, bro. I don't care. But like everyone else, everyone is written just amazingly, dog. It's just
Everyone
it's okay.
Have their spinoff.
Oh yeah, bro.
Everybody.
And I love that they wasn't afraid to not have Ed and Al on the screen.
Mm-hmm.
That's another thing. Not to say other anime don't do that, but the anime that do it, they don't do it as often. Like the world doesn't feel as lived in, because you only see the world through their eyes. You follow these other characters all the time. Ling Yao's story was great. The Sin stories, great. Roy's story, great. Olivier Mira Armstrong, great character. It's like I said, it's okay to be different, and it's okay to write from different perspectives. Seeing the Ishvalan soldier that worked with Olivier, and he worked in the military. Yes, he knows that he slaughtered their people. They slaughtered his people. I still have shit to do, regardless. I may not like y'all. I have ends to meet. You know what I mean?
Yep. Everybody. Scar, everyone.
Scar, bro, I thought I was
going
to hate Scar. I thought I was going to hate Scar from the jump. But you know what? He came back and I said, you know what? Great written character, number 47 right here.
It's so much, and everyone, it's like, it's so dynamic. Like, and you just like, and I feel like, spoilers again, the testament to me at the end, because the scene that I watch every single month, no doubt about it. Like, I go to Crunchyroll and it's at that part. It used to be Netflix and then they took it off Netflix. Is when they are fighting father and Al realizes like Ed needs to get his arm back. And like the fact that like in that moment he makes that decision, and I think what's her name, Lynn, the little girl. And he calls her, and he's like, I need you to do this circle. And she's like, because she kind of realized what was happening. It makes me want to cry, because I just think about it. And then I think about, like, then, you know, Ed gets his arm back. He's furious because it hit him when he sees I'm about to go watch it after we're done. When he sees like the little spikes, and he's like, what the fuck? Like, what the hell did you do, Al? What did you do? And then what I feel like then it's the testament is like, then when the battle's done and they're all waiting, and they're like, okay, we gonna get Al, like, forget everything that just happened. Where's Al? And then Al comes back, and everyone, like, the whole, and that's, I think it's also, that is funny that it kind of ended like that, because that's very tropey for everybody to be at the final battle. Like, that kind of felt like, have you ever watched Digimon?
No, I never watched Digimon.
Oh man, that's like a OG back. You watched it back in the day, but there's like this final battle where like this person from episode 5, everybody comes in. Like, it's such a trope to me that like every character's in the final battle. So then like you see that like when everybody's waiting and they get back and everybody's waiting for Al and everybody's like, yes, like that's, to me, is like, that also speaks to the power of all the characters, that everybody was there and everybody just is like rooting for them, and you're just like, yes, peak.
No, I love it. I love it.
This gives you like chills.
It does. No, chills. Let me tell you, the scene that gives me chills and that probably stuck with me through my 3 watches and my rewatch has stuck with me the most. Spoilers ahead, y'all. When the Führer's son, Riza's there. She's been placed as his bodyguard or whatever now. And then she feels the chill, and you're like, what? And then she looks back, and it's just the sun, and you're like, what? And you're like, okay, that means something. And then like 10 minutes later, he's like getting her from the shadow, and the shadow reaches back, and it's just him. And I'm like, oh no, bro. And then you realize that he's also a homunculus. That scene has stuck with me something serious. Every time I come across it, the chills it gives me, because Riza didn't even realize her life is in, he could kill you right now. Like, you know what I mean?
And you don't see it coming. Like, that's like the one that was, because like as they're revealing them and they reveal, I forget his name, the guy, Bradley, and he be like, he be just like, okay, when his reveal that he's like mad buff and he be doing, I'm like, okay, Bradley, like, you out here. But then when they reveal the sun and you're just like, oh, like you just feel the blood drain from your, like, oh, this is like, and it has so many of those reveals that you're just like you like, they revealed it all. There could not be another twist.
Can't be nothing else.
And then it's just like, you're just like, oh, this is like,
peak.
It's great. Like, I still think too about the scene when Ed and Al realize that the stone is made up of souls, and they're just,
oh my god, they're like, yo,
they're like,
this is what.
And then they're too, like, just questioning like everything, like because they're like going so hard trying to find this stone that's gonna make their wish happen, and they're like, oh, this is what we're chasing, and like now it changes the meaning of everything. It's just, you can't, I don't know, like you just can't. Fullmetal Alchemist has done something that like no one can do. Like, I can't be convinced. Like, I can't. I mean, and don't get me wrong, like I have moments like that in Attack on Titan where certain things were revealed where I was like, I felt, and I said this in my life, I know this phrase is like overused, but it really altered my brain chemistry, because I just like, I could never think of the same moments again. But Fullmetal Alchemist does it so much, and you just still don't see it coming. Like, I don't care. I don't care anybody that's like, I knew everything. No, you didn't, because there's no way to know everything that was gonna happen. Like, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, it definitely, Fullmetal Alchemist definitely altered my brain chemistry. I feel the same way about Attack on Titan, but unfortunately I was spoiled for like everything before season 4, so like none of the reveals hit me because I just knew everything was commonplace for me. You know what I mean? Like, I remember watching, I was still surprised with how they revealed things. Like, I'm not even going to spoil it, even though we all know, when they reveal who the Armor Titan and Class Titan is, and it happens in the background. Bro, I was like I knew it was coming, and I was like, oh, they're gonna be fighting or something. No, these niggas is back there discussing while the camera's focused on these two up here. Bro, I was like, yo, you can't reveal something like that. Like, oh, that man was cooking. That man was cooking.
I literally, and that's another thing, because what happened with me with Attack on Titan was that I saw Attack on Titan the first season when it was coming out. And then he was so long in between seasons that I like didn't go back to it. And right before season 4, I decided to binge watch the first 3 seasons. And when I'm telling you my game, like my spoiler game, avoiding spoilers, is almost 10 out of 10. So I didn't know anything besides what I had known from season 1. And then somebody was like, and binge watching it, somebody brought this up. I was talking to them about it on the podcast. They're like, you know, we had weeks to wait in between these reveals, months, years. You're watching these back to back to back. Like, there's pictures of me from that time. Like, I have a picture that's like, don't mind the sadness in my eyes. I'm just thinking about Attack on Titan. Because I was just so like, I look sad for 2 months straight. Like, I was just like, and that's also why I haven't gone back, because I'm very emotionally invested. But it's like, it's very rare that you find these series that just like, do this. And I also, too, because we're talking about Attack on Titan, I don't like people comparing Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood and Attack on Titan, because not that I feel like, you know, you can absolutely compare 2 different types of stories, like they don't have to have similar elements, but I just feel like they're so different, even in the magnitude and the impact that they have. Like, they don't impact the same thing for it to be compared, to me, in my opinion.
No, I feel that. They're not on the same, like, it's like, and usually people use it in like a derogatory way, but they're not on the same playing field. They're complete different. That'd be like comparing, I don't know, Haikyuu with Bleach. They're not the same thing. One is peak over here and one is really great over here. You know what I mean? So I feel you there. I wish I was good at avoiding spoilers. I still get spoiled to stuff to this day. That's why I watch everything as quick as I can now. But when they put me on,
it's harder now.
It definitely is. When they put me onto Attack on Titan, I had never watched anime, so they was just like, "Oh, bro, you gotta watch it." They didn't care. They know I don't watch anime. That it was my hero was so okay. Do you want the story of my first anime?
Yeah. What was your first anime?
All right, girl. My first anime was Food Wars. Let me tell you. I was in Romania, and my homeboy was like, "Ross, you don't watch anime, right?" I said, "No, I wasn't allowed to as a kid. You know, dad was a pastor. Everything's demonic to him, so."
Okay, that makes all. So I was like, you weren't allowed to watch anime. Then you said the next line. Makes sense.
Yeah. He was like, well, Ross, because I've always cooked my whole life. When I was in high school, I went to culinary school during high school. That's something part of my life. He was like, you like to cook, right? I was like, yeah. And he was like, you're a little weird. I was like, okay, where are we going with this? He said, look, bro, take my hard drive. Watch this show. It's called Food Wars. And I was like, what's it about? He was like, it's cooking. Don't worry about it. Told me nothing else. I watched it. I was like, bro, what is this freak ass shit? But bro, that's still one of my favorites. That is one of my favorite anime of all time. I love the breakdowns of everything. But so I watched that. Then I watched Dragon Ball. I watched My Hero next. My Hero was my first weekly anime. That was my first one I watched as it came out. And then I watched Dragon Ball. I watched Seven Deadly Sins. I watched Naruto, Fullmetal. I done lost the damn plot of the damn movie. I done forgot what the hell. Oh, Attack on Titan. So my homeboy, they put me on Attack on Titan, but I never chose to watch it myself. So I'd watch it with them, so I don't count that as watching Attack on Titan. You know what I mean? But so I was watching it, and I'm just seeing stuff happen, and then they're like, yeah, man. Like, they're on their rewatch. They're like, yeah, man, that guy's the fucking Colossal Titan. You wouldn't think that, huh? And I'm like, oh, that's crazy as hell in the context. So then when I got around to watching it, as soon as I see the characters, I'm like, oh, you're the big bad already. You know what I mean? So it kind of...
That is very... Yeah, I don't like watching anime with people unless it's very specific people.
No.
So that is very interesting. And the fact that they're like, know that you never watched this, but then they're like openly like, these spoilers. But I think... and then it always depends, too, on the type of spoiler. Because, like, you can know what happens, but it's like you said, you don't know how it happens. So, like, it's not going to hit the same, but sometimes the delivery and, like, certain things. But now people intentionally want to spoil you online, and I think that's a very unfortunate, like, I've talked about this at length, especially in my last episode, the one that's out with Dragon Ball Z, but we talk about that, like, fans now, like, they just post everything, no words, no tags, like, intentionally for you to see, and it's just like, why are you trying to ruin my life? But as we're getting to the end, because we're on the same level here. Is there any like fun facts or anything that you found out about your love of Fullmetal Alchemist that you would like to share?
Fun facts. I was looking up. So I look up fun facts all the time. I look at it all the time, right? One fun fact I think is hilarious. You've seen. I don't know if you finished it. I don't know if you go back and finish it. Did you watch the original Fullmetal Alchemist in its entirety? Mm-mm. Okay, but you saw part of it, right?
I saw like one episode.
Okay, so one thing I think is a fun fact, right, is Alphonse. Everyone in Brotherhood, almost if not everyone, 99% of everyone came back for the voice cast in the dub, right? It's funny. Alphonse sounds exactly the same in Brotherhood as in the original, but they're not even the same voice actor. So the original voice actor is Aaron Dismuke. He voices Senku in Dr. Stone. He voices the main character in Kaguya-sama. I forgot his damn name. That's my boy. Miyuki Shirogane. Yeah, Shirogane. He voices them. When he first voiced Alphonse, he was a little kid. By the time Brotherhood came out, he's grown up. You know what I mean? So it doesn't sound the same. They hired, I think her name is Maxie Whitehead. Her voice was extremely similar to his, so she had to just copy his voice the whole show. So even putting them next to each other, I listened to it beforehand, they sound exactly the same. Two different voice actors. And I just think that's such an interesting thing, because I just assumed it was the exact same person.
That is something too that was like the style back then, is like they would hire people to do redubs and they would be like, okay, you try to match the voice instead of like, here, do your own take. It's like, yeah, you're gonna sound like this iteration. But yeah, that is interesting. I actually have not seen Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood dubbed, and I will not watch it.
Really? I will say this. I'm not gonna say I'm a sub elitist. I prefer to watch sub when I can, but I do too much shit and I watch stuff while I'm doing stuff. Fullmetal Alchemist dub is probably my favorite dub, like, ever. Granted, you've seen in the sub, the characters are going to sound wrong to you because you already have what they sound like in your head. You know what I mean? But if you ever decide to go back and watch it, the dub is absolutely amazing. The Roy Mustang is voiced by. Do you watch One Piece? I don't even know if you've watched One Piece.
I've seen a lot of One Piece.
Okay. Roy Mustang's dub voice actor also voices Ace, so it's funny to see two fire users with similar kind of styles voice the same. And then Riza is actually voiced by Colin Clinkenbeard, who also voices Luffy. Mm-hmm. So it's crazy to hear how different her voice sounds in the two.
Her voicing Luffy is just so amazing to me. Like, I'm like,
it's crazy.
Yeah, she's amazing. So as we're wrapping up here, I just want to thank you so much for coming on with me, and talking about one of my I'm actually wearing a Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood shirt. The one of two. I don't even know what happened to the other one that I own. Because where's the merch?
Where is the merch?
Where is the merch for real? But as we're wrapping up, of course I'm gonna have all your links in the description of this episode. But where can people find you, and what should they be looking forward to?
So people can find me on Instagram as Vibe Dealing David with a G. Everywhere else, TikTok and Twitter are both Vibe Dealing without the G. So just Vibe Dealing David. You can find me on there. You can also find me on Twitch at Vibe Dealing David with the G. You can expect to find more anime videos, more manga videos. Catch me doing Manga Monday every Monday. Try to put you on manga that you have not read and you may not have ever heard of, but you could probably find on official websites or in store. You can also find me on stream, whether I'm doing video games, doing anime quizzes. Sometimes I'll do an opening quiz and you can see me get 100 out of 100 because I just know it like that.
Oh, okay.
One thing about me, I'm going to get the opening songs right. But yeah, you could just find me vibing, doing anime and manga content.
Well, thank you. I'll be sure to include all your links. And
Definitely.
For everybody
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode. If you like it, if you love it, leave a rating, leave a review, wherever those are. And if you're watching on YouTube, comment along in the conversation. Shout out to Kendra. She's my fave. She always puts a paragraph with every single point that she has. And I love, because I do the same thing when I watch videos. I'm like, here's my 10 points about your video. So I love
I saw it on the Dragon Ball video. I was just watching it before we came on. And she had the whole, I said, show more. It's like, I'm like, oh.
I live her and Rob. They're the best. But everybody, thank you so much, and I will see you on the next episode. So peace out.